TWM podcast.
Welcome to TWM Talks. I'm Shirley and I am back with another really awesome special guest host. But before I introduce them, we are sponsored by We Love Sport UK and we are also sponsored by WrestleCrate UK, where if you enter the code TWM Wrestle, you will get a free item in the first 3 boxes that you order. Now, my guest at this time, to be honest, without her, there wouldn't be a me doing a podcast with you right now, because she kind of laid the foundation for women who love wrestling, who podcast. And I'm really pleased to be joined by the Interview Queen, Alicia Atout. How are you?
Hi, that was such a lovely intro. That's so sweet. I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be on here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been one of those ones that I know I've been really fighting to get, because as I said in the intro, like, you have been one of the biggest voices in wrestling and you're a woman, and it's really nice to have someone to talk to as a woman who also likes doing this sort of thing. So how did you get started in doing this?
Yeah, it pretty much just all started with me posting random reviews for albums online. And then that turned into me doing very short 2-question interviews with bands I loved who would just play through town. And those seemed to catch on with people for whatever reason. So I decided, you know what, let's turn this hobby into something a little bit more serious, not necessarily my job at that point, but let's kind of do more of this. So then that kind of went from doing my 2Q interviews to sit downs. And then about 2 years into it, I was done school and I thought, okay, people like this. It's going really well. Let's take this seriously and turn it into my job. So then I started doing music stuff for about 4 years. I've been doing wrestling stuff for about 3. So it all kind of just organically and naturally happened. It was never the goal or the plan, but it luckily worked out. So that's a long story short.
But how did you get the confidence at your age to go up to these bands and say, hey, can I do a 2-minute interview with you, to then go into interviewing these massive wrestlers and then, hey, can I do something with you? How did you build up that confidence to do that?
It was really difficult because I was the kind of person that couldn't stand public speaking. I was like a mess in front of other people when it came to talking. So it really just boiled down to, okay, if you want to take this seriously, you got to kind of pony up and work on your confidence and make sure that you are good at what you do before walking into a room with either a small band or a big band, big wrestler, small wrestler, whatever it may be. So the main way I grew confidence was just practice. I was out like 5-6 nights a week at clubs interviewing, and some of them I couldn't even stay for shows because I was like 17 and the legal age here is 19 in Canada. So yeah, it was definitely difficult, and confidence is something I still struggle to this day, simply because I feel like everyone does. But when it comes to my interviews and like walking into a room, I know I'm gonna nail it. So I just try to keep that in mind. But practice makes perfect. It's such a cliche, but it's definitely true.
I know what you mean. Like I've been doing podcasting now since October with TWN, and it is that confidence that you need to have walking into a room with a big name or having a phone call with a big name, and just having to show you're confident in what you're doing. Otherwise, they sense it. Would you say that's right? That's about the right thing. I'm thinking the right lines of you.
Yeah, definitely. You can kind of tell when you walk in a room if you're nervous and the person sitting across from you senses that, like, they're going to straight away have this vibe like, oh, is this worth my time? Is this, going to be a disaster? So when you do walk into the room for an interview or even just meeting people, you have to have your chin up. You have to have that confidence and exude it, because if you don't, they could kind of think, oh, well, this is going to be a waste of time. And you can know everything, but if you don't have that confidence, in the end, it doesn't really make you stand out from anyone else.
So, was there anyone where we were talking about this confidence and people feeling it? Was there anyone that you've interviewed where they could feel your nerves, and then how did you go about fixing that as you did the interview?
I don't really think so. I mean, when I first started, I'm sure, like, if you go back to 5-6 years ago for my first ever interviews, I'm sure all those bands could tell I was nervous. But as far as like in the last 4 years, I don't really get, like, I get nervous for interviews, but it's more so anxiety and excitement. So I don't know. I guess when I was a kid doing the interviews, or a teenager, it was more so they could tell I was nervous, but the moment the camera turned on, I kind of pushed through. Whereas now I don't feel the need to push through. I just kind of go from Alicia off camera to Alicia on camera, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's definitely changed.
Who's been your favorite people to interview?
That's so difficult. I've had thousands of people on my site, which is like, I'm super grateful for. So as far as favorites go, I mean, anytime I get to have any of the guys from the Bullet Club, the Elite on, that was always super, super fun when it comes to wrestling. And then for music, like, I'm a huge fan of a lot of English indie bands like Mystery Jets, Bombay Bicycle Club, The Kooks. So interviewing those bands were super, super cool for me personally. So those are some of my favorites. Another one, like, I always throw this out there because I'm still like absolutely baffled that this happened, but like, I got to interview Metallica, so that for me was super, super cool. So yeah, so those are a couple that I absolutely loved, but yeah.
Gosh, I could not imagine interviewing Metallica of all people. What were they like?
They were awesome. It was super nerve-wracking, that interview, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, you can't mess this up. This could lead to so many opportunities. It's a huge band. You have to make sure, you know, everything's going to work out perfectly. And they were lovely. I interviewed Robert, and he was just a super cool guy, very friendly, very kind. So, you know, there wasn't really, they're one of the biggest bands in the world, but at the same time, they were very cool. So it definitely eased that anxiety.
If you could interview anyone that this could be people who are alive, people who are dead now, who would you interview in, like, music, wrestling? Who would you want and why?
Yeah, so when it comes to music, I really, really want to interview Kiss, just because I love that band so much. They're obviously living. If it came to dead, I'd want to interview George Harrison, because my favorite band's the Beatles, and he just seemed like the sweetest, most lovely soul. And then in wrestling, I really want to interview The Rock and Cena, and I know they're such massive names, and they seem like very obvious ones to mention, but I've been fans of theirs. Like, I've been fans of theirs before they got into movies or anything. Like, just straight up when it comes to wrestling, like, I loved watching them when I was younger, so and still now. So those are two on my bucket list. I would love to one day chat with.
Like, I know that there's ways you can get them doing through the movie. So would you go into the movie avenue then in order to get Rock and Cena in as a pod interview?
I mean, it totally depends. It's weird because I've had celebrities on where I do get them on because of a comedy tour or movies, or it goes straight through wrestling. So I really don't know how I'd go about it. It would depend on what events we have in common. If they're in town, you know, it would really depend on, like, what kind of junket they're doing. So yeah, I can't really say, but I'm open to any way to get that in.
What would you ask them?
I mean, it would kind of be like one of my Ambi interviews. I don't know specifics yet, because before I do an interview, I do like between 3 hours to a day of full research. So on being on the spot right now, I couldn't say what I'd ask, but it would be one of those, like, fun, upbeat, you know, like, I don't want to say typical, but, like, as far as my interviews go, like, you know, it was one of my interviews. It'd be like a normal Alicia Atout chat where it goes from hobbies to wrestling to whatever they might like. So yeah, I'd be so excited if that ever happened.
God, I think I'd be the Rock and Cena as well. Another one that I'd love to interview is Stone Cold.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
You'd sit there with a beer and drink, and then see what happens as the conversation goes on. And I'd say Stone Cold. I've been really lucky to have Charlotte Flair. I did Charlotte Flair recently. That was insane.
I bet.
Becky Lynch is my other one that I'd really just love to sit, have a mic in between us and just talk and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that she would be absolutely incredible to speak with, because she's so quick-witted and she's so funny. I think that she would make for such a great candidate, and just guests to shoot the breeze with. Plus, she seems really lovely, so that's always nice when the person seems like they'd actually be pleasant to be around. So yeah, that'd be a good guest.
You're obviously, like, a woman who's into wrestling and getting in that way. Have you found it difficult to get in within the wrestling industry, or was it easy to do because of your experience with the Ambi interviews?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was extremely difficult. It's one of those things too where like a lot of people, when they think of me, they think like, oh, it's a fast rise in wrestling, la la la. But they don't realize I did like 4 to 5 years of work before coming into wrestling solely in the music world or the music business. So I think it was a little bit easier because I wasn't coming in with 0 followers. I wasn't coming in with people being like, well, not everyone being, who's this chick? So I was able to present my channel, kind of give some history on the bigger bands I've interviewed, and then be like, give me a shot, hey? So it wasn't super difficult. There was still tons of hustle, like going to tons of indie shows, interviewing like 10 wrestlers in a day. Like, it was hectic, but it wasn't as hard as when I started in music. 'Cause I literally started from nothing when it came to that industry.
What advice would you give to like women in particular who want to get into podcasting or any sort of wrestling avenue that's not wrestling? What advice would you give them?
Honestly, just don't take any BS from people, because people are going to try to take advantage of you, whether it's your age or just thinking you're naive or you can't do the job properly. Just don't take any BS that's thrown to you, because if I would have listened to every little jab or troll or douchebag I had encountered, like there's no way I'd be able to stand on my own 2 feet. So don't take any BS. Believe in yourself. If you have a passion, go after it, and just be genuine. Like whether you're speaking to a male, female, whatever, whomever it may be, you're always going to be judged, even if they don't mean to. It's just the way humans are. So just be genuine, and that usually comes across to people.
So have you found, like, I don't know about you, but I know since I've been podcasting, a few of us on TWM are girls who are doing video stuff now and podcasts and stuff. We found ourselves on the receiving end of trolls. Have you found yourself in the same position?
Oh yeah, I get them every day, and it's like never about my interview skills. It's never about like, oh, she sucks at this. It's always about my looks or something super stupid, and it's ridiculous. At first, when I was a teenager, it used to drive me crazy, and I'd get really like insecure about it. But now that I'm older and have grown and kind of heard everything I can hear, it doesn't really faze me as much. I'll kind of like quote retweet stuff, almost being cheeky, and let my fans attack the troll. So that's always fun. So that's kind of how I like to handle it.
TWM podcasts are brought to you by We Love Sport, the fantastic app finding you your nearest sports bar showing the latest WWE pay-per-views. We Love Sport has over 400 of the best sports bars and pubs in the UK at your fingertips and allows you to book front row seats, giving you the best views of the action. You can also check out what sports are being shown over the next 7 days, making sure you don't miss a second of the action. Download the We Love Sport app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Follow We Love Sport on all social media platforms at We Love Sport UK, and check out welovesport.co.
TWM podcasts have joined forces with WrestleCrate, the original and best monthly theme, monthly wrestling subscription service to bring you a fantastic deal. If you use the code TWM Wrestling when you sign up to a monthly subscription at WrestleCrate.co.uk, you will receive a free item in your first month's box. Then, if you stay for another month, you'll get a second free item. And then, if you stay for a third month, you guessed it, we'll give you a third free item. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. WrestleCrate brings you the best swag from the biggest companies and names in the wrestling world. We're talking t-shirts, photos, pins, DVDs, vinyl figures, and loads more from WWE, Progress, Shakara, NXT, Fight Club Pro, and loads more. That's WrestleCrate.co.uk and use the code TWM Wrestling for up to free items, all thanks to WrestleCrate and TWM.
Yeah, I mean, you got to handle it in some way, because I know just being a woman in wrestling who likes wrestling, it's just difficult, because you get those people who just are like, yeah, they don't really know what they're talking about because they're a woman. I know I find it difficult to get around trying to explain. I do know what I'm talking about. How do you kind of hold back on those people who are telling you that you don't know what you're doing because you're a woman?
I just tell them about how most of their favorite wrestlers have either worked with me, been interviewed by me, or hired me to work a pay-per-view of theirs, and they can shove it. I mean, it really comes down to, it sounds really blunt and it almost makes me sound harsh, but I've really worked very hard to be where I am, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be in the end, but I'm in a pretty decent place, and if I hadn't worked for it, there's no way I would be here. So if anyone does deny my method or way that I got here, or they try to discredit me, I just say that. I mean, it's true. I remember I had this one troll who was like, "You're nothing, you're this, you're that," and the background image on his Twitter, like his header or whatever you want to call it, was a photo of the Bullet Club with like Tama, Jay White, like all the boys. And I'm like, they literally hire me to host their yearly parties. Like, you can go screw yourself. Like, your idols hired me, which is the most gratifying thing to me. So if you don't think I'm good enough, take it up with the people you admire, because clearly you're crazy. So I don't know. That's kind of how I deal with it.
Well, I'm going to go on to that bit now about you saying that you're now getting more into the industry because you've just signed a contract with MLW. How did that feel, getting that contract?
It was the most surreal feeling. It was terrifying and so exciting all at the same time, because you work so hard to have a place to call home, a place you feel comfortable and welcomed and respected. And I had felt glimmers of that in other spots, but MLW just feels so right. I did my first tapings with them in December. It was kind of like a tester. They wanted to feel me out. I wanted to feel the place out. And it just felt so flawless. Everyone was so kind, and it was such a welcoming atmosphere, and everyone's passionate and has hustle. So once they offered me a contract, a multi-year deal, I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening, and it's coming from a place I would really like to be. So I feel like the best word to sum it up is it was just completely surreal and unexpected, and I'm so proud to be there now. I really am.
That's really nice to hear. Like, you don't hear many people saying how much they love being where they are, and I think I'll be honest, I've not seen much of MLW, but I know they're quite small and just building up for being online. So where do you want MLW to go?
I mean, it's really exciting because we already have a TV deal, and there have been so many things on the dirt sheets now, and my bosses are running around, and we're pretty much working towards an even bigger TV deal, and we're on YouTube every single week on Saturdays at 6 p.m., so that's awesome. But it's one of those things where when you look at your bosses and see how much, especially Court Bauer, the owner, when you see their hustle and their passion for the brand, it makes your drive even tenfold, because you want to live up to, everyone's vision of the company. So I think where we all want to see it is we want to be in as many countries as we can, whether it's TV or actually filming our tapings, bigger TV deals, expanding the brand, the roster, everyone just improving on their individual talents. And it's cool because everyone is already doing that. I mean, we have Mexico tapings next month where we're collaborating with AAA, which is massive. So it's all really on the up. Our shows draw super well. The fans are crazy. And I've only done 3 tapings with them, and I'm already feeling so positive. It's not like I needed, I need to like test this out for 6 months and make sure it all feels right. Like, it just felt right from the start. So it's, it's really exciting to see the growth, and, it's only going to get bigger and better.
Yeah. Who do you think we should be keeping an eye out for in MLW?
Oh, that's so tricky. We have so many amazing people on our roster. And I feel like if I name people and don't name others, everyone's going to be like, hey, why don't you name me, Alicia? But there's like, everyone's now friends. It's really awesome. Our champ, Jacob Fatu, he is such a talented wrestler. He's so agile. And I mean, it's one of those things where you wouldn't look at him and think he could do half the flips and things off the top rope that he can. He is fantastic. Brian Pillman Jr. was named Rookie of the Year by PWI. So he's obviously someone to look out for. Mance Warner is one of the funniest people I've been able to work with. I worked with him a ton on the indies. We were on the same shows, and now we're both at MLW. So doing promos with him, it is so funny. We also have the Von Erichs, one of the most famous wrestling families. So they're amazing, such sweet guys. They're really fun to film with, and they're great in the ring. So those are. Oh, and then Tom Lawler, he's also hilarious. I'm supposed to hate him, but he's great. So I could go on and on talking about everyone on the roster and like their pros because they're all awesome.
So is there any plans to like go through Mania week with MLW, or is there you're just doing the Mexico tapings at the moment?
So we have tapings planned up until I think September that are announced, at least. Like we have the schedule, but that are out to the public. And for April, as far as Mania goes, they don't have tapings during Mania, but they do have tapings. I believe it's April 20th in Chicago. So we will have the Mexico tapings in Chicago, and then I think we're back in Dallas in May. So it's, as our slogan is, like the world of MLW never stops. So it's pretty nonstop there. So I'll be doing other stuff for Mania, a lot of exciting things, but MLW will be later in the month.
So let's talk Mania. Like you've been out at a lot of Mania weeks now. What's been your favorite experience from being out in Mania City?
Yeah, so I love that Mania City. I had two really amazing experiences last year for my first Mania. The first one was I got to work my first WrestleCon. Not only did I sign and meet tons and tons of fans, but I also got to host specifically, like directly for WrestleCon by opening every morning, interviewing talent in front of the fans before they entered the building and everything. So that was super cool. And then the other awesome experience I had was hosting the Bullet Club block party for the Bullet Club. That was extremely insane. There was over 1,000 people in a parking lot of Jimmy's Seafood, which was not Jimmy's Seafood. Sorry, it was a bar, and Jimmy's Seafood was catering, and it was just insane. Like, how do you just draw that many people in front of a restaurant, and we're all just chilling and barbecuing and playing like cornhole? It was awesome. So hosting for them, being on stage, interviewing Bullet Club talent, that was a huge opportunity for me, and I'm very grateful that once again they're actually bringing me on this year to host the Bullet Club beach party, which is the same deal. We have the Bullet Club and myself roaming everywhere. You just mingle with fans, you host interviews live, you get to eat, drink, swim. It's going to be fantastic.
That I'm not gonna lie, I'm really jealous. It just sounds fun. Like, I've not done Mania since Orlando, and I'm just like, I really want to get back out to a Mania. So what would you suggest for people who like me who want to go out and do like the podcast and out at Mania week? What advice would you give people like me who want to do that?
I think the biggest tips of advice is just continue networking, because the reason I was able to get these Mania opportunities is, well, the first one for the Bullet Club is because I knew a couple of the guys. I'd interviewed Jay like 4 times before that. He's fantastic. I had been interactive with Tama before, and I took a chance actually when they announced the party. I DM'd the Bullet Club account for the party, and I was like, hey, if you need a host, wink wink, and they were receptive. They're like, the boys love you, let's do it. So take chances, because worst case, that door gets slammed in your slammed. I made slammed like a forward syllable. That door gets slammed in your face, and you move on and you get the no, and so be it. But the best case scenario, you get the yes, and you get to host a bitchin' party with the Bullet Club. But that's just one example. So aside from taking chances, I would say continue networking, just touching upon that again, because you never know which contact will come in handy. I did like a smaller signing once for the owner of WrestleCon, and then that turned into me being brought out to a couple shows to sign for him. Then he actually had me hosting things for WrestleCon. Then I hosted a series for him. So that's just an example again, but you never know what contact will turn into being like a huge opportunity for you. So yeah, that's really it. Just keep your chin up, keep hustling. Don't be afraid to ask for things, because if you don't ask, you might never know.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I've one more question for you. Where do you see yourself going in the future? So you're currently in MLW and you've got a multi-year deal. Where do you see yourself in the future?
Honestly, at this point, what I would love to do is continue my YouTube channel, make sure that continues to grow, get bigger guests, make sure those numbers keep driving up. I'd love for more influencer campaigns. Those have been some of the most fun experiences of my life, those collabs. I'm very grateful for those. And ideally, I'd like to keep growing with MLW because I'm very, very happy there. And I really like the people I'm surrounded with. And just within the couple months I've been there, they're already growing, and they're just a good group of people. So, I mean, ideally, if I could just stay with them and we all keep going on the up, that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm not looking at really going anywhere else because there's no need. I'm happy. So, it all feels really, really good. And I keep saying surreal, but you know, that's the best word for it. So that's kind of the end goal. Just keep getting bigger and better.
Yeah, so let's end on this happy note because it's ended really nicely. I'm going to let you now plug any socials, plug anything you want now. This is your chance to promote anything.
Ooh, shameless plugging, my favorite. Yeah. All right, guys. So if you guys just type up Alicia Atout, you'll be able to find, that's on your Google machines. You'll be able to find my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and most importantly, my YouTube channel and my website, where there are literally thousands of video interviews and interviews with bands, wrestlers, musicians, hosted by yours truly. My merch store is on my website. There's tons of archives of different articles and stuff. And just say hey. You'll find my upcoming appearances there, shows I'll be at. I love interacting with my fans. I love meeting them. If it weren't for them listening and giving a damn, I mean, I could still post stuff online, but it would not be anywhere near as fun. So I'm grateful for every single person that's watched a video, given me a follow, bought merch, whatever it may be. It really doesn't go unnoticed. It means so much. So that's kind of my shameless plug and my thank you. And thank you for taking the time to have me on. This has been a lot of fun and I appreciate it.
And thank you for being on. This is my time to shameless plug. So I've got Twitter and Instagram, which you can follow both at Shirleigh Charles. TWM Wrestle is where to go for Twitter and Instagram and Facebook for all your daily news. And be sure to keep updated with all these TWM talks. We've just got more and more coming out. We've got lots more coming up. And just be sure to listen out for us. Thank you very much again for listening to TWM Talks. And I will speak to you soon.